If you were wondering whether or not you can use frozen cherries when making cherry pie filling, let me quickly reassure you that yes, you can in fact use frozen cherries for making cherry pie filling. I am Amy from A Red Spatula, and I am quick to admit that I am addicted to pies. This has not always been the case, but in the last 5 years or so, I have really come to love pies, and they are my favorite dessert now. Well, with this love, of course, I have tried and tested tons of recipes so you do not have to, including this cherry pie filling made from frozen cherries. Don't forget, of course, to subscribe. You don't want to miss any of the new videos that are coming up. And if you have any comments or questions while you're listening and watching this video, drop them in the comments section below. Okay, so before we get into the actual making of the pie filling, I want to talk about what types of cherries you can use. The ones that I'm showing today are dark, sweet cherries. They're the ones that I always use. They're the ones that I prefer and that my family loves. They're sweet, so you don't have to add a lot of additional sweetener to them, which I really like. But if you don't want to use those, there's also tart cherries. They have kind of a tangy and sour flavor. If I use these, I always use a combination of these plus the sweet cherries. Now, of course, because it is so much more sour, I'm not sure what that is, you will have to add in more sweetener, which I don't like to do. Now, Bing cherries are all kind of a combination of both. They're dark, they're tangy, they're slightly sweet. Sour cherries are another one that's great for pies, but just know that they do require a lot of added sweetener as they are so sour. In fact, you really can only use them for baking. Rainier cherries, if you're familiar with those, they have a different color altogether. They're a light yellow to pinkish color. They're a little bit more difficult, at least in my area, to find frozen. They're sweet, and they almost have kind of a floral flavor is the way that they're described. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the filling. What you're going to do is you're going to add your frozen cherries to the pan. There's no need to thaw them before you start making this cherry pie filling. To them, you're going to add your sugar, cornstarch, and salt. Now, the sugar, of course, will sweeten. The cornstarch is to thicken. If you don't like cornstarch, you can also use small tapioca pearls if you prefer. And then the salt, of course, enhances the flavor. Once these are in, we're going to add a little bit of additional water to this, and then we're going to mix everything together to coat it. Now, you're going to turn the heat to medium, and you're going to want to make sure that you're stirring this frequently. You don't have to stir it all the time, but you want to stir it pretty frequently to prevent burning or the pie filling to stick to the bottom of the pan. The mixture is going to start to thicken in about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. It can depend on how frozen they were, how much moisture they release, a lot of different factors. But you can count on about 10 to 15 minutes it's going to start to thicken. Now, one thing to remember as we're cooking this cherry pie filling is that it's not going to be fully thickened until the mixture cools all the way. So while you're looking at it in the pan and it's hot, just know that that's not as runny as it's going to be. It's going to thicken quite a bit once it cools. Now, if the mixture looks too runny, you might need to add more cornstarch. This would happen, of course, if there's more moisture in the cherries than what you typically have. And a cornstarch slurry is just 3 tablespoons of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of water. Mix that together. You're going to pour it in and mix at the same time. Let this cook for at least 5 minutes. That's how long it's going to take to be able to see if this is thickened enough. And then once your filling is to the thickness that you want it to be, you're going to remove it from the heat. We don't want to cook it anymore. It's done. And then remove it from the heat and add in the almond extract. This is not you don't have to add in the extract, but I think it adds another dimension of flavor that I love with the cherries. Cherry almond flavor is so classic. I love it. Set this aside to cool. Once it's cooled, you can bake with it right away, or you can store it in the fridge for up to 8 days. Now, I did not link in this video how to make the pie dough, how to roll out the pie dough, but I'm going to add these right here at the end of the video in case you have questions of how to do this. I'm going to show you very simple ways both to make the pie dough and how to roll it out and form it.